Good afternoon and welcome back to Action for the Soul. I hope you had an amazing Rosh Hashanah. I wish all of you a year of happiness, health, and success in everything that you do, and a Gemar Chatima Tova. Tiskul Shanim Rabot Tovot V'Nimot. It should be a year filled with happiness, health, and success. Okay, Pashat Vayelekh. Let's just jump right in. Pasha is a very, for me at least, when I see it, it's powerful. You know, the title for this talk is called Walking Through the Silence. And you'll see very quickly why I titled that. So the Pasha begins with, Vayelekh Moshe, right? He is getting up, he's going, and we have no idea where he's going and why he's going to wherever it is that he's going. Moshe went, and he spoke these words to the Jewish people. Chizkuni says that Moshe walked every single one of the Shvatim, all one of the tribes, and gives each of them a bracha. This is a final act of love and leadership. Rabbi Shimshon Hirsch says that the word Vayelekh signals motion, right? It is Moshe doesn't fade. He's getting old. This is toward the end of his life already, but instead he moves forward, even into a world that is unknown. True leaders don't cling to power. They walk into silence with a deep sense of emunah that Hashem has a plan for all of us. It's interesting because there's a fascinating question over here. It says that he knew he was going out because he knows he's going to die. And the question that the Chachamim ask is, well, this is Rodruk, how does he know he's going to die? The Gemara says very explicitly that no one knows when they're going to die. So he explains that 40 days before a tzaddik is about to die, he already feels his neshama kind of fading. And so he understood right away that his neshama was fading. He, from that 40 days time, he knew when he was supposed to die. So it's true that you can't know in advance, but it sounds like what the Gemara is saying, within 40 days of a person passing away, there's some knowledge that it's going to be more imminent than not. Okay, anyway, so Moshe hears this call, so to speak, of a feeling of his soul kind of beginning to fade, and recognizes that I'm not going to stay passive. I'm going to go out and take on the leadership role that I've always had, which is to inspire the people themselves. It's interesting, by the way, that this Pasha also has some of the most terrifying words. Va'anochi hester astir panai. I will surely hide my face. And Rashi points out that the word hester astir is talking about a divine judgment, like Yom Hadin, right? That God will be hidden, right? But we won't even realize he's hidden. This is definitely the world that you and I are living in right now. How much of us truly felt a Yom Hadin and Rosh Hashanah? How much of us were just waiting to run out of Bet Knesset? But this concept of not having access to God and Him being hidden, where Jonathan Sachs says is it's silence. He says it's not absence. It's the space to grow in moral maturity. Meaning God pulls Himself away, like a father pulls himself away from a child who's learning to walk and says, "Come, now you can do this on your own." So we don't respond to Hashem. His absence as saying, "Oh, you're ignoring me, I'm ignoring you." The opposite. When you feel like there's silence, right? That's a time to do deeper searching. That's a time to believe that God believes in you, that God is empowering you to be you and take full responsibility for your actions. Okay, let's go back. So Moshe says, Vayelekh. He's walking, okay? And he is telling us that he's going from tribe to tribe, giving the brachot, okay? True, but we also know that it says I'm unable to move forward. So some say that he was unable to move forward because he was too weak, which is not true, which is why he goes forward. But it was more about a passing of the baton, that he no longer had the siyata d'shmaya, the special divine influence to inspire the people from a higher field, a higher plane. He says that lo chal means I'm disconnected. Now what's interesting is that the Ramban says, right? It says, and now I want you to write this shira down, right? So what is a shira? The shira itself is the Torah. The Torah is a song, which is fascinating because when you think of a song, you don't think of a book of laws. Laws and songs are very different things. Laws are boring, songs rhyme. Why is the Torah called a shira itself? You also have in this week's Parsha, the Pasuk says, V'chisku v'imtzu, right? Be strong and courageous, Chazak v'amatz, right? And over here, this concept in the parsha itself is that there's a mitzvah to be strong, right? It's to not allow yourself to feel uncertain. Yeshua now was given the power to lead without Moshe, but not without God. And even though we don't have the leaders that we had in the past, these people who had high levels of knowledge and wisdom, God is still with us. But we still, in order for us to find God, we have to have the courage to walk with God. Not easy. Then you have the Aron, which is placed in the Mishkan, right? God can hide, but His Torah is still with us, right? The Torah is a witness. That's what Rashi says, by the way. It's a witness that we are never without guidance, no matter how long it's been since the Beit HaMikdash has been lost. And sometimes it's so easy to feel like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do? Where am I going? The Torah is our guidebook. Silence of Parshat Vayelekh isn't empty, but rather it is filled with purpose. And therefore, the silence of the Parsha itself, all these ideas of God hiding Himself, so to speak, it's an invitation for us to grow and to trust God, right? Faith is the courage to live, like Rav Sachs said, I've said this before, with unanswered questions. And even when God hides His face, He never hides His presence because He's everywhere. And this is what I believe the Parsha is about. But just going back again, Vayelekh Moshe daber et advarim ha'eleh el kol Yisrael. Where did he go? Right? So Rashi says he goes on his own initiative. Right? Balaturim says that he's fulfilled his promise and brought the children to the brink of the land of Israel. The Zohar says, and I think this is the Zohar I was talking about earlier. It's super emotional. The Zohar says that Moshe walked like a body without an arm, because Aaron was his right arm, and Aaron was gone. But Aaron and Miriam were both gone, and therefore Moshe was walking alone. Now think about it for a minute. Moshe is walking alone, no arms. Arms, both Miriam and Aaron together, allow you to do this. You know what that is? That's, my friends, is a circle. Okay? Where Aaron, Moshe without arms, is just a line. So Aaron represents peace. Miriam, hers is this yearning, a prophecy of song. Moshe is able to form a circle of law, right, with the two of them. Without them, he's a line, the straight path of law, rigid and absolute. A circle has no beginning or an end. And it's symbolic of the continuity, return, connection. A line has a clear beginning and an end, and that symbolizes separation, judgment, and the finality of things. Emet is a line. It's unchanging and direct. Teshuvah is a circle, allowing us to come back to rewrite our story. And therefore, Parshat Vayelech always comes after Rosh Hashanah, right? And Hashem says to Moshe, right, hen, right? Behold, hen, right? Your days are coming to an end. And this is the same hen that Moshe says, hen lo yaminu, they won't believe in me, right? Moshe was judged for speaking negatively of Bnei Israel. His leadership had to end, not because he failed, but because he was no longer the balanced circle. He had to return to being a line. And therefore, even Moshe had to transition out when he loses the emotional and communal balance that leadership requires. And therefore, at the end, Moshe has to write the Torah, right? It transitions from being a giver of laws to a composer of songs. Va'ata kitvu lechem et hashira hazot. The Torah ends as a shira, right? A song of memory, return, right? In silence, without Aharon, without Miriam, Moshe finds a new voice, one that sings. He is, in these final moments, there are no miracles, no speeches from the mountains, no plagues, no splitting. There's only a quiet goodbye, a silent scroll, a leader who walks alone, right? When was the last time you walked alone? I mean, alone, with no music, no phone, no distractions. What happens when you walk in silence, right? You're able to tap into the transcendent reality. You're able to be fully present in that moment. You're able to put aside your ego. You're able to be in this humble place. You're open like a circle, ready to receive God's blessings. You're not worried about the past and the present. Vayakel is always read at the end of Rosh Hashanah. The time is not about what you've done, it's about what you're becoming. Like Moshe, we have to learn to walk forward, not into uncertainty, into silence with emunah, with faith. So you have over here it's interesting because the Torah is a lines, line by line, right? Which is the rigidity of the Torah itself, but it is wrapped in a scroll, which is circle. So in Judaism, we're always looking for this balanced approach, both. Moshe was unable to express that any longer, which is why I believe he knew his time was coming to an end. What arms do you still have? Or what arms are you missing? Are you living a straight line? Or can you return? Can you become part of a circle? Or more importantly, do you feel like you're living a life of balance? And if not, my friends, this week is the time to figure it out. We have 7 days between now and Yom Kippur. Each day represents a tikkun for that day itself. Today is the tikkun for every single Thursday. Tomorrow, every Friday. Shabbat, every Shabbat. The holiday itself, Rosh Hashanah, is part of the tikkun of the process of fixing who we can be. You're never truly alone. If you are quiet enough, I believe you could hear the song that God sings to allow creation to continue to exist. Teshuvah is the power to go back to before the beginning, to rewrite your story, to a place where there are no distractions, a place where you understand your function, your purpose, a place where a line is law, a circle is song, and for us to walk with God, we have to learn how to do both. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom and a Gemar Chatima Tova. Thank you so much for listening.